Hey, how's it going? Today's subunit is about the presidency. I didn't get a lot of feedback on the survey about needing stuff, needing review for this. So I'll let you mostly click through that PowerPoint on your own and go really quickly through here. Remember, we talked about kind of those different hats that the president wears as chief executive, chief bureaucrat, chief diplomat. And so understanding what his responsibilities are across multiple areas is important. A big part of the way the standards look at the presidency stuff is kind of distinguishing between his formal powers, which are the things in the Constitution, and then his informal powers. And certainly the office of the president has grown in power, and a lot of that is attributed simply to those informal powers. His ability to kind of do things beyond maybe the original intent, but things that are certainly within his inherent set of responsibilities, like executive orders and executive agreements. Nowhere is that language in the Constitution, but it's also commonly accepted that the president can do those things, particularly his power to persuade. We spent a lot of energy talking about how he convinces both the public and Congress to get on his side. And I think with today's social media landscape and a 24-hour news cycle, he uses that to his advantage. Not just this president, but any president can use that to his advantage more so than in the past. This is a great example of a signing statement, maybe one of the things you're least familiar with. When the president is signing legislation, he'll also create a document that talks about how he's going to interpret the laws that he's signing. He agrees with it, but maybe he doesn't agree with particular provision. Maybe he sees a portion of it as unconstitutional, and so he's not going to enforce it. So here's an example of, this is from a news article from maybe a week ago about the signing statement about COVID relief. There were some provisions in there that would allow for congressional oversight of how the money was being spent. And he just basically said, I think that's unconstitutional. I'm not gonna follow it. Expansion of federal power is another big part of the presidency section. Guys like Taft, I think we talked about his language in saying, I am only empowered to do the things that the Constitution directly tells me I can do. And then things like crisis and war have changed the view of the presidency in needing greater powers to deal with those threats. But particularly with kind of the turn of the 20th century, we saw a more expansive view. I think Teddy Roosevelt's language was, anything that is not expressly forbidden in the Constitution or in law, that's within the president's wheelhouse to try to do. Wilson, in particular, talked about the ability of the president as the only national representative to shape public opinion. And if they can successfully get public opinion on their side, there's really nothing to stop the president. You also have support for that with Federalist 70 and Hamilton saying energy in the executive is the chief quality in a good executive, being able to protect personal property, being able to execute the law faithfully and effectively. A strong, energetic executive is required in order to do that. The president can expand his power multiple ways. Again, he can go directly to the people himself. He's the only person with a national constituency, so it allows him to do that. The bully pulpit, I think, has maybe even gotten more important because the president can bypass the media and go directly to the public in order to get his message out. No filtering through the media. President's power of setting the agenda. The State of the Union is obviously an important time to do that, where he gives the speech in front of a joint session of Congress, but also just regular interactions through social media and speeches. The president can set the agenda, and the media responds to that. Whether or not he's effective is a separate debate, but certainly more than anyone else in the government, the president has more power to set the agenda than anyone else. He's the kind of sole national figure. Everyone can name the president, even if they can't name their congressman. Congress speaks with 535 different voices in different constituencies. The president speaks with one. And Congress is responsible for this probably more than anything else. They either don't stop the president when he's doing something that he shouldn't, or they simply outright create laws that tell him to do certain things. A great example would be, you've heard about this lately, the Defense Production Act of 1950, a Korean War era thing that allows and instructs the president that he should order private businesses to make supplies for the war effort, and he can kind of direct the way businesses operate. Great example of Congress giving the president lots of leeway to make his own policy.